Yes. Good evening, everyone. If you're wondering, Danielle, there's your headset. It's right here. But I realize I only need this for the PlayStation. So that's where the game audio is from, and we're doing a chat right now. We're chatting, so I don't need that. I can just talk into the microphone, and I don't have like an audio feedback thing. It's just for the PlayStation. It's just because of the weird setup. Um so this is a bit strange because I usually hear my voice a little like numbed, and now I just hear it full quality. All right, it is Thursday evening, and we are doing it just chatting. So earlier this week, I talked about makeup. I talked about makeup on Tuesday night. I talked about it on Saturday night, and I realized I actually kind of like this whole talking beforehand, just kind of getting stuff off my chest. Let me dial down the music some more, because I realized reviewing the chatting on Tuesday and Saturday that the background music was a little loud, so I hope you can hear me better now. Hope that's good. Um, what's up today? I'm wearing one of my favorite summer dresses of all time. It's so cute. I love it. It's like, it's not too flowery because flowery doesn't look good on me, but it does have like a cutesy pattern color thing going on. What else? I am wearing some makeup. I said I was starting again. I checked the products, I did all the ingredients research, and I'm wearing just like a little bit of concealer and lip gloss. That's all. But it's just a little extra that I need. Like, you can still see the rest of my skin. You can still I don't have any brow stuff going on. Because usually I like carve out those brows and I just look snatched or whatever. But not today. Today today we're just me. So what are we going to talk about? I realized that aside from video games, I also have a lot of knowledge and experience when it comes to mental health. And like I said before, this is a mental health channel, and I did kind of want to just kind of dive into that more. I wanted to um, share more of my experience, more of my knowledge, and as well as my problems. And that's why today we are talking about asking for help. This is without a doubt one of the things that is probably the hardest for me to do. And I've had, like, in my background, let's talk about my background. I've had a lot of therapy, and I won't get into it too much right now because it's a whole story. I've had a lot of therapy, so much that, well, I don't have a degree and I'm not a licensed therapist, but I know a lot. They say there's a word for that in Dutch, which is ervaringsdeskundige, which means you're an expert based on your experience. I feel like that applies to me. So asking for help is, to me, one of the hardest things to do ever. And it's still hard for me to like explain why, but I'm gonna try to today, because this week I asked for help and I got it, and it helped me a lot. Like, this person helped me, and it also helped just my life. So what was it? I have a lot of crap. I have a storage area outside of my apartment where I can put whatever. It's like, how big is it? I don't know. It's like one and a half by 4 cubic meters. Like, I'm not good at measurements. Anyway, it's a storage area, and it's full of crap, and now it is slightly less full of crap. And there was some stuff in there that I threw away that's been there for like 10 years. Like broken shit, lots of cardboard, cat furniture I no longer use. And the other thing is, I live on the 11th floor. Let me show you. I live on the 11th floor, guys. It's pretty high. It's a great view, but it's not always very practical. And Yeah, if I wanted to like do stuff, like household stuff, I have to go all the way downstairs. So I wanted to throw out a lot of stuff, and if I do it by myself, I have to do like 5 or 6 trips up and down. I have to like just it's not practical. So I knew I needed someone to help me out with this, and I've been putting it off for like I said 10 years. But I was just sick of it. My hallway was full of shit. There was a lot of things in my storage area outside that I couldn't get to because all the things that I wanted to throw away were blocking the path to other stuff I have to clear out. Right. So finally, I think 2 weeks ago, I made an appointment with the city council because we have to make an appointment with the city council to come pick up like big trash. I don't know how else to call it. Of course, we have small trash containers where we can just put our bags in. It's fine. But if you want to like, let's say broken furniture, things like that, old mattresses, whatever, you have to make an appointment with the city council to have them come pick it up, and then you have to put all that crap outside between 6 and 8 a.m. in the morning. So those were already, for someone like me who's autistic, are already like 2 big cognitive steps, right? We need to make an appointment, and I need to make sure I put the crap outside the right time. And third, I need help with someone to do this. So those were like 3 big points that gave me a lot of anxiety and had me put it off for years. And I finally did it, guys. So 2 weeks ago, I made the appointment, and then this week I was like, it's too late to cancel the appointment with the city council, so I have to do this, and I can't do it by myself. So I finally scrounged up the courage to ask someone for help, and I asked my neighbor, and I have a really good bond with my neighbor. I've lived here for 10 years. Sadly, like this, they were a couple, and I was good friends with her, and she passed away last year, which is, you know, affected me a lot as well. That's a whole other story. My connection to him is less, but we're still like acquaintances. We're good neighbors, and I knew rationally, because you always know rationally, right? I knew that if I asked, he'd be fine. He'd just help out right away. But it was just such a block for me, and I asked him for help, and he said okay. And then what happened is I knew I had to wake up at like before 7 a.m. so we could start putting stuff outside. And what happened is I went to sleep at 4 a.m. I had so much anxiety about the appointment, about waking up, and just the thought of someone helping me with something, that I kept putting it off. I have this weird thing in my head where if I'm afraid of, like, if I have anxiety about something like an appointment or something during the day, my weird lizard brain thinks that if I just go to bed late, it'll happen later, because that's definitely how time works. So, of course I caught up on sleep. Thankfully it was on a Wednesday, which is my day off, so I was able to catch up on sleep right after that, so thankfully. And at Wednesday night, I went to bed at 8 p.m. very early, so I had enough sleep for today, the work day today. But yeah, the whole thing prompted me to talk about this now. So if you're in chat and you also have issues asking for help, and you want to share your story, you don't have to, but please feel free to like talk about how this is for you. I'm curious, and maybe I can give some tips as well on how to overcome this. Although, like I said, I overcame it, but it's still a struggle for me. But I wanted to talk about that, and maybe you know, let others know that if you are struggling with this, you are not alone. And hey Nipa, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, asking for help is basically the biggest thing for me ever, and the reason for that is simply that you know, a lot of stuff happened to me. thank you. I'm I don't want to butcher anyone's name. Yeah, so asking for help, guys, it's so tough. And in childhood, there were a lot of points where I thought I could get help from adults and I didn't. So as I grew up, I thought, well, I just have to do everything myself because everyone else will let me down. And of course, that thought is not like correct. They call this like kind of a corrupted thought, or how do you like a skewed thought? Like it's a thought process that is not right, but you have it because that's how you grew up or whatever. You really want to move it. It's so difficult to move to like a new flat. Oh yeah, moving is such a huge thing. And it's also something that you need help from others with. It's not something you can do by yourself. You just need people to pack, to just help you pack and unpack. It's like the basics. Even if you have a moving company that can take all your shit and put it to another place, it's a lot to do by yourself. So I get that. I get that so much. Me and my partner are thinking about moving in together, and we're both like, it's so big. We want to do it, but it's such a big, scary task for both of us that we just keep putting it off. You have to time it right, you have to clean, you have to rent, sort it out. I totally agree. It's such a huge executive task that, like I said, we just keep putting it off because we're also both comfortable in our own apartments and we don't want to move, but we want to be together. And it's like, it's just a whole thing. Like, wow, moving is such a huge thing. And I have friends of mine who move very frequently, and I was like, how do you guys do that? But I guess they don't have the autism, so it's easier. But, you know, even for people without autism and people with anxiety, moving is still like a big, scary thing. My door's wrecked. What? Oh my god, I hope that gets sorted out fast, because that would be scary to me if my, if my door was wrecked. Just duct tape that thing shut or something. Like, holy crap. Oh, well, yeah. So, at one point in my life, I made a flowchart to explain to people how I would literally prefer to pay someone to help me than asking a friend. It's closer to chain. Alright, that's a relief. Because that would be so scary to me, yeah. Wow. And it's like a lot of things around the house that you can't really do by yourself and you need help with, like heavy lifting. Just hanging up like a painting. I can do that, but I'm always really scared about drilling holes in the wall because I have like mixed walls. Like I have some walls that are so light, like drywall and something that if I hang something from it, it might just come down. Then I have walls that are like, what is it, like reinforced concrete. So I need like a special drill, which I don't have, and I don't have the arm strength control. So those are like lots of things that you just need help with. And one of the things that I had to learn in therapy, that it's okay to ask for help. And I was like, but I don't want to ask for help. But it's perfectly normal to ask for help and to need help. Like we live in a society. We're all human beings are not supposed to do everything themselves all alone. That's not how society works. That's not how we work, and that's not how you can live your life. You have insurance, there's other damage too. Wow, that's a lot to deal with. I hope it all works out. If you're in like a situation that is so complex and there's like a lot going on, the thing I do is just to focus on like one thing. Like, what's the next step? And don't think about everything else. Just be like, okay, what can I do today? What's the next step? And just kind of narrow your vision to like keep your anxiety at bay. At least that's what I try to do. You came home at midnight and the door was locked with an external lock I had no key to. The door was locked with an external lock I have no key to. Oh great. That's so much going on. You didn't even have time to panic. Wow, I hope you're doing alright now. I like it's better than that situation. Well, it's gotta be because you're here, right? I hope so. Not sure where you're from, but you got insight later, right? That's good to know. I have locked myself out sometimes, but like I said before, I have a good bond with my neighbors, and one of them has the key, and I trust them with it. I trust that they're just not gonna run in and do whatever because they're just a decent person. So I'm very lucky that I have a good neighbor, and like if that would be a piece of advice to me for me from me, is if you can just form a connection with your neighbors, and that is tricky. But it's one of those social things that it really pays off. Like, it started this year, I got new neighbors next to me and they greeted me with baked goods. I was like, yeah, you bring me baked goods, I like you. So and then I brought them something, and it's like an exchange of like, hey, we acknowledge each other and we can ask each other for help. And, there's a lot of things in my house that I needed neighbors' help with, like to put up the TV, to put up this painting, to hang up some things in the hallway. And those are just practical things, right? You have to ask for help, call a taxi. Nobody here talks to their neighbors. A girl let me use it. Kind of spooky for her, yeah. So that's like, I get that. I get it. It's very hard. I live in the city, but it's not like, well, for Dutch standards, it's a big city. But Rotterdam is probably, in the scope of things, not super big. Yeah, I feel like if that's an option, if there's a way you can kind of bond with your neighbors, I would definitely recommend that as a way of just practical life help. I've also been sick in the past and had to rely on my neighbors as well, which I probably could not have done that without them, which is once again why I really mourn the loss of my friend from last year, who was also a neighbor. Because she helped me out a lot, and I wish I could have returned that favor as well. So what else about asking for help? So I've been talking about like the practical side of things. This is in Finland. Talking to people is illegal. Yeah, and I've heard of that. I've heard that Finland is kind of like the social culture is just everyone has social anxiety. Like that's just how people behave. Like, no, I don't want to talk to other people. Now, Dutch culture is very direct. So in the Netherlands, you'll just walk up to people, like to your neighbors, go like, hey, I need help. And there's no complex social interactions or contracts that are going on. Like, I have a friend of mine who talked about, she's from Mexico. She grew up there, and she talked about things being very like between the lines, or if you want to ask a favor, you keep denying it. You keep saying, no, I don't need it. And the social contract is that they keep asking you until you're finally like, oh, okay, So there's apparently like this contract that you have to keep saying no, and they have to keep asking, which is also difficult for people with autism, because if someone says no, we're just like, okay, I guess not. Yeah, it is very scary to talk to strangers. So I definitely get that. And if it's at least not your neighbors, it's also important to rely on friends and family if you can. And that is also scary to me as well, because I'm like, no, I don't want to bother anyone, or I don't want to ask them. And the thing that we forget a lot is that other people like helping out. Most of them do. Most of them like helping you. Also because it makes them feel good and appreciated, because it makes them feel useful. I love helping people out. I'm not good at physical stuff. Let me tell you, if you ask me, hey Danielle, do you want to come do some heavy lifting this weekend with all of my furniture? I'll be like, let me maybe ask someone to come along with me who's better at that stuff, and I will just be there for moral support. Yeah, you always help those tourists, right? So think about yourself. Are you okay with helping people when someone asks? Is it like, and if you're not able to help them, do you say no? Because that's also very important. So the second thing I would say, that if you're asking for help, also make it clear that it's okay for them to say no, and that you will respect that. So it's another one of those social contract things that you have to be sure that they're okay with it and you're okay with that. So I'm also scared of asking for help, because I'm afraid that I will bother people or they will say no. So you kind of have to kind of feel that out, and also kind of agree on that's safe enough for either of you to say something. So for me, it feels safer to ask for help if I know that the other person is going to be honest about what they're capable of, and they won't hold it against me later. Um, yeah, if you have no obligation to help me, she'll go home. Yeah, that's a really good one. So just assure people what's what, and don't hold it against them later on. Also, if you help someone out, don't be like, well, that time I helped you out, so now you have to do something for me. Like, try to like get out of that mindset that you have that somebody owes you something or you owe somebody else something. Like, the latter is what I have a lot. If I ask someone for help, I feel like I have to pay them back at some point, and I have to let that go. Like with my neighbor who helped me this week, I was like, well, now I have to send him flowers, give him candy, I have to do something back. And that's not true. That's not true, because he knows that if he asks for help, I'll be there, and I know that if I will ask for help, he'll be there, and that's all you need. So you don't need like an additional payback. You just need the agreement, like, hey, we'll be there for each other, and that's what's important. You have a friend who would drop everything, help me for a lot for free. Yeah, and that's up to them. And if at some point this friend, like your friend might be like, oh wow, I'm overwhelmed and I've been helping you so much, and what do you do for me? Then it's like they're the ones who should have guarded that. Like they're the ones who should have said no at an earlier point, because people have to guard their own boundaries. Yeah, exactly. You feel like you don't give anything back. And I think that is definitely tricky. So if someone just keeps giving and giving and giving, and you kind of feel like, well, am I using you? I'm like taking advantage of you. And it's okay to check that. It's okay to go with them like, hey, you've been helping me a lot, and I kind of feel like this is not a very equal relationship, and can I do anything for you? But at some point you also have to let it go, because they're grown-ass adults. They're grown-ups, and they have to also guard their own boundaries. That's very important. And you have to do it yourself too. You shouldn't give and give and give to people and get completely worn out. You have to also learn to say no for yourself. So those are some things about asking for help that are tough to keep in mind and tough to learn, but definitely very important for just living an okay life as an adult. I'm just gonna drink some. Lots of talking today. So let me think if there was anything else about asking for help. So I think there is an emotional component about asking for help that doesn't really have to do with like the practical side of things, if someone is available or something, but it has to do with admitting to yourself that you need help. And I think that is one of the actual hardest things to do. Yeah, so the only way for you to me was asking to borrow a van and help me out. All right, yeah, I get that that's difficult, definitely. But all you can do is just kind of ask him and hope that he's okay with it. And like, of course, if you're asking like a friend to borrow a van, then like the logical thing is you pay for the gas or something like that, or like a small compensation. I feel like if it's a big practical task, that's okay. It's okay to do something like that. Like if someone helps you move, you cook for them or some, it's all kind of social things. And definitely, it's still definitely hard for me to figure that out as well. But yeah, coming back to the emotional component, admitting to yourself that you need help from others is the hardest thing ever, because it kind of feels like admitting weakness or admitting failure. And I want you to know that that is not true. If you need help, if you figured out for yourself that you can't handle it, can't do it by yourself, whether it's emotional, whether like you're working through depression or grief or anger, you don't have to do it by yourself. You don't have to go it alone. And that is one of the hardest things to admit to yourself ever. And I have to keep reminding myself of that all the time. Like, I don't have to do it alone. And it helps a lot that I have a partner who's very understanding and who can very much empathize, who's been through a lot of the same stuff. So I know that if I ask them for help and if I talk to them, that they'll be there and they'll understand. But if you don't have a partner, then uh, try to cultivate the friendships and maybe family relations if those work for you. To just be able to go to someone, and even if you can't really say anything else, if you can't really give any details because it is that difficult for you, you can at least tell them, hey, I'm not doing okay and I need help. And if you struggle with this on an emotional level, I would advise you to, or I give you the tip to practice that. So just practice for yourself. Be like, okay, I'm not okay. I need help. That's all you need to say. Like, you don't need like the whole story. You don't need to give any details. Just the act of like talking to someone and admitting that you need help for whatever, even if it's a small thing or if it's like a big emotional thing. I feel like that is such an important first step, and it's one of the most biggest things I had to learn in therapy, and still tricky to do. Like, I'm doing a lot better, but last year, right before the lockdown started, I had the bright idea to stop taking antidepressants. Like, I discussed it with doctors, right? So my psychologist was on board, my psychiatrist was on board, and we all decided I was gonna taper off the medication. And it seemed like a good idea at the time because it was before the lockdown. And then my mental health was at the worst possible place just when shit hit the fan. And I had a very, very rough 2 months. Hello, kitty. Are you joining the talk? What are you doing? I have a cat who occasionally joins the stream. She's just like, kitty, hello. You got a kitty cam now. Come on. Yep, we sometimes have the stream cat. She's just like, excuse me, you're not giving me all of the attention. So what's going on? Now she's gonna bite me because she's like annoyed. Alright, let's try to balance the color out because that looks weird. We'll just put it like this so we can have a little cat on stream. Stream cat. Yeah, pets are really useful. Like, I don't think I would have made it through the past year without a cat. Because it's just you're just less alone, and it's really, really important. You know, you stay inside, you can't go anywhere or hug anyone. At least you have a kitty. She always makes eye contact with me, which is so cute. Yeah, if you can get pets, I know not everyone can because it's too much for them, or your partner won't allow it. That's also possible, or you're allergic, whatever. But that would be, if you're able to, then that's a big piece of advice for me, is try to like not be alone. Your apartment is very small and I'm very poor. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, I understand that. It's, you know, it is a financial responsibility to have a pet and be able to afford their food and their litter and other things they need. So I hope things improve for you, Nipa. I hope things get better and you'll be able to get a pet and afford more things. Fortunately, things are rough right now for a lot of people. So let's wrap this up. Like, what was the last thing I talked about? Because my cat distracted the heck out of me. Oh yeah, last year I was having a really rough time, and luckily for me, because I have autism, I have kind of like lifelong, like a social worker, lifelong like help, someone who helps me with either practical stuff or like emotional stuff to work through, and she was like, Danielle, you really need our help. You need help. And I was like, yes, I do. And this person really helped me out with just getting back on track and getting me to take my medication again and just build it up, and I feel so much better right now. Alright, I'm just gonna move the camera back to my face. There we go. I'm a little white out. There we go. White balance, please, ma'am. Alright, let me do it like that. So let's conclude this whole just chatting session and move on to Mass Effect. What's the like final conclusion I can give you? Ask for help. I won't say just do it, because it's a lot harder than that. But the first step is just to at least say to yourself, I need help. And once you realize that, then the next steps will flow from that. But if you're struggling, at least try to ask yourself, like, hey, I can't do this alone. I need help. I feel like that is the essence of it. And talking about my wonderful partner who I mentioned before, here's Flynn. Flynn's my partner, and I love them, and they're here. And we are just in time for Mass Effect. So let's shift to the game.